free at Murtech.com with your daily news update. Okay, here we are on June the 22nd in the year of our Lord 2026, and I have some great information to share with you. Let's go ahead and jump over here to my Murtech on Rumble channel. Here we go. This is my video channel, and this is the live stream that we're going over tonight, episode 1956. It says upcoming, but as you know, you are actually watching it. So let's go ahead and click into this. And we have Debbie BS has joined us. Thank you very much, Debbie. I'll get back with you here momentarily. Let's slide down here and click the Show More button to expand out the description box. And we have information from Dan Bongino, AP for Liberty, Bongino Report, and Wendy Bell Radio. But before we get into that, I do need to give some shout outs here to Trump Mermaid, just started following my channel. Ed Zinger just started following my channel. Dookie Balls 1776 just started following my channel. Michael K just started following my channel. Afghan Gaming 0093 just started following my channel. GT Guy 2468 just started following my channel. Ken Lee Marie just started following my channel. We got Sandy 564 just started following my channel. Fawny Jan 12 just started following my channel. Chewy Horse 2 Horse, sorry, just started following my channel. Emily Divine Will just started following my channel. Jaron Nodley just started following my channel. TJ L5 just started following my channel. And Get War just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. Got a ton of people following me. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in, and I hope you enjoy the content. All right. Debbie BS reposted my video 1955. Joining the News commented on my episode 1954. Debbie BS and Viper Senior commented on my episode 1955. Debbie BS commented on my extra 378A. Debbie BS and Svartruna commented on my extra 738B. Jam 3354 and Chewy the Horse commented on my episode 737C. So thank you very much, folks, for reposting my videos and giving me your comments. I enjoy reading your feedback, and I definitely appreciate your support. So let me give this a thumbs up. All right, let's get into this. Dan Bongino reflecting on the reflecting pool Lunatics, episode 2539. Okay, there's definitely been some weird stuff going on. Let's see what he has to
Listen,
say.
I know this story may sound dumb. The Algae Wars, okay? The reflecting pool saga, and it is dumb. It's very dumb. So why are we talking about it? Because, folks, the Algae Wars and the reflecting pool and how this magically has become the biggest story in the media. Donald Trump's repair and rejuvenation product, work product he produced at the reflecting pool, how this has become an international story despite everything going on with Iran, the Strait, the economy, and elsewhere, the border being sealed, all these good news stories, is epidemic of how we got here. They reminded me over the weekend, looking through all the psychosis around people dumping algae in the pool, vandalizing the pool. It's insanity how this is the definition of like DSM diagnosable insanity. But I want you to remember how we got here and how we're in this era now where when you lose compass true north, when nobody agrees on what's reasonable or real anymore, this is why I'm trying to prevent our movement from going there. As Yuri Bezmenov, the KGB defector, said, ladies and gentlemen, the country collapses from the inside because you have this Tower of Babel effect. Think about truth as a language, okay? The language of facts. When people can't agree on what facts are, the entire society and fabric of it, as you know, implodes and collapses on itself. I mean, think about it in very simple terms. If you're a carpenter and you're going to put a light up in a house, right? And you need a certain amount of clearance for this light. and nobody can agree on what an inch is or what a foot is, you're going to get the wrong measurement. Oh, you're using your foot? I used our foot instead. What do you mean there's only 1 foot? Facts are facts. What's happened with the left is because they've become so detached from reason and no compass true north, they've gone crazy into psychosis where I'm telling you, if President Trump cured the hantavirus, the left there'd be a lobby out there pro-hantavirus. They would be out there claiming like, I can't believe we're costing all these doctors money who treat people like hantavirus. There's a story about that in Oakland, California. There's been fewer car break-ins due to a better law enforcement approach. Thanks, guys. KTVU. A decline in car break-ins across Oakland is being welcomed as a public safety win. That's because it is. But it's also contributing to a downturn for some local auto glass repair businesses. What the? Folks, how did we get here? How did we get here where there's no compass true north, Tower of Babel, everybody's speaking a different language, reality has been distorted, basic human good things like cleaning up the nasty algae-infested reflecting pool have become a source of international media conspiracy theory stories? How did we get here? We got here 2 ways. Reason gets scrapped and thrown out of the window because of show your ass theory, where liberals, in order to prove to other liberals how much they hate Trump, have to constantly supersede the prior level of craziness to show your bona fides. You don't like Trump's border wall? That wasn't enough. Now, everyone says they don't like it. Now you got to go to another thing. Now you got to go to like a Trump conspiracy theory about like how crime is really a good thing and Trump should let it happen. Then you go to like the pro-algae stuff. You see how the show your ass theory, how liberals have to constantly say crazier things about Trump and take more and more untenable positions to prove to other liberals they hate Trump more than the next guy. That's how you get to this reality distortion field of gaslighting. Here's what I mean. Here's Stephen King this weekend. This reflecting pool thing is out of control. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. There are actual people in freaking dinosaur costumes at the reflecting pool protesting for the return of algae to the reflecting pool. This is nuts. I've never seen anything like it. But it's an important story because it shows you that you have a choice in these midterm elections between people who don't care about ideas and only care about power. They will take psychotic positions to get rid of Trump and the obstacle to their takeover of the United States, and they don't care what you think, even when the facts are right in front of their face. Look at this nut Stephen King, of course, the fiction writer. This guy and I have had some epic fights over the years. This guy's a freaking lunatic. He loves my Twitter account, by the way. Here's Stephen King. Infamous author. Nobody is vandalizing the reflecting pool, and Trump knows it. There have been arrests. This is a visible example of his corruption. A no-bid contract to some crony, followed by sky-high cost overruns and shoddy construction to boot. Classic Trump. I didn't F this up. It was my enemies. There have been arrests for vandalizing of the pool. Did you miss it? Donald Trump even talked about it on his True Social account. How freaking crazy are we in of a time right now where you've got a political party that has made their staple issue going into a midterm election, algae in the reflecting pool in D.C.
CSI
they can't
tonight.
Stop talking about it the left.
Algae in the silent, murky shadows of a forgotten retention pond. Something ancient and green stirs. Who planted it? Who cares about it? And how do we save it from extinction?
This is it. That's it. This is the only thing they care about. Affordability, gas prices, all that stuff they claim they're running on. Bullshit. The reflecting pool is the issue. Why? Listen to what Brother Dan just told you. We have reached the point on the left. We reached it a long time ago, but it's getting worse. Ideas don't matter anymore. What's the idea? Reflecting pool clean or reflecting pool dirty? They don't care. They don't care. That's not the idea. Donald Trump has become their singular focus of obsession. It is an obstacle, a big obstacle to their organized attempt to corrupt the United States and take back power. Whatever position they have to take, including pro-algae, they will take. You understand? I bet you guys didn't even know this, but Barack Obama put nearly twice as much money into a reflecting pool Lincoln Memorial cleanup operation, by the way, which is a good thing. I'm not mad at Obama for that at all. Matter of fact, so few people made a big deal out of it that I guarantee this is probably the first time you're hearing about it. It was only a big deal when Trump did it. Why? Because the it was an issue? No, the Trump was the issue. Here's the great Scott Jennings hat tip from it to his Twitter feed, having it out on CNN with some idiot who didn't even know that Obama poured in almost twice the money into trying to clean this project up. Nobody knew this because it wasn't an issue, because Obama did it, not Trump. And then Scott plays the actual news reports about how much it costs and how the algae over there has been a constant problem. Proving to you again, it's not about the freaking algae, it's about the Trump. Check this out.
I think that the $14 million plus price tag that is associated with this cleanup project was ridiculous.
Did you oppose President Obama spending $34 million on the Lincoln Memorial and the reflecting pool?
I know that when President Obama invested, he did it with science in mind. So there was not an algae takeover.
For the record, you believe that algae didn't exist when Barack Obama was the president. Is that right?
I believe that once he invested in the beautification of that specific part, what we did not see was a takeover because we just didn't see anything happen.
Just for 1.6 billion years, algae has existed in stagnant pools on planet Earth, but not during the Obama administration.
What I'm saying is that it was treated, which is what Donald Trump could have done.
The Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool reopened at the end of August to great fanfare after a $34 million renovation that lasted nearly 2 years. But less than a month later, the famous pool of water is full of algae.
If it's sunny, if it's really warm, it will rise to the top. So on some days, depending on the weather, you will see algae at the top.
I learned something tonight. I didn't realize that President Obama had cured algae when for 1.6 billion years, algae had been undefeated. So I've learned something this evening.
For those of you listening on Apple or Spotify, that news report that's jump cutted and split into that is from 2012 when Obama was the president. They don't care about the algae. The algae. Who cares about the algae? The answer is not the left either. It's not about the algae. It's about the Trump. Folks, this is how we get to a point, by the way, where we're in Tower of Babel America, where basic facts are meaningless. This is why I tell you all the time when you debate a leftist, forget the leftists. They're a lost cause. So why debate them? It's a waste of time. It is not. There are a lot of, matter of fact, an abundance of very reasonable, not hyper-partisan people who may be D's or R's, but are persuaded by good arguments, and they're still listening. The liberal is a lost cause. It doesn't matter if you tell them Obama spent twice as much money and has been fighting the same problem. So you should be pissed off at Obama, not Trump, for trying to fix a problem Obama handed off to them and still hasn't fixed. They don't care. It's about Trump. They have distorted reality so much that the left has bedrocked their party in Tower of Babel politics where everybody's screaming at each other. And it's a way to get them to avoid using reason and just focus on the emotions. Here's another one I saw this weekend about this reality distortion field we're living in right now. It's not the craziest political time we've ever lived in. Like, check out the 1860s. However, we're getting to like serious political dystopia with this lunatic party. Hat tip and wokeness. This was the New York Times. This is a piece they ran. To my daughter, my gender was never complicated. You run this on Father's Day? No, your gender's not complicated. You're either a man or a woman. You don't pick your freaking gender. How is this hard? This is a basic tenet of reality. But yet when you believe that the critical theory tenets and absurdities. Look at this nonsense. How long did you have breasts for, Dad? What the is going on here? What is going on? Why do they do this? Why do they pretend algae just appeared under Donald Trump, that men can be women and women can't be men? Here, let me open book test, jump cut to the end. They cannot. That is not going to happen. You can say you're whatever you want to go by, Sunflower or whatever, Mayflower, or I don't care what you want to call yourself, Joey Bag of Donuts, whatever. I'll use the name you want to. I'm not going to tell you you're a woman when you're a man or vice versa. It's just not going to happen. We're not doing it anymore, as the great Haley Carania said in her video. No, you can do it. We're just not doing it. Folks, without going into a history lesson, though, of why the left engages in this reality distortion field and refuses to engage in compass true north politics, and you're seeing it, people on our side doing the same thing too. Facts aren't facts anymore. When you get called out on something you said that is factually wrong, you just ignore it and move on, and people still believe you. You saw it with my coverage of some of these spats the last few weeks. I can produce to you actual data. The data refutes the premise. That doesn't matter. They move on. That's liberal politics at its worst. They believe in this critical theory garbage that's later offshoot was critical race theory. And it goes like this. The white male patriarchy, white males like you, I celebrate the patriarchy. We love the patriarchy. Thank you, patriarchs. The white male patriarchy is basically the source of all power. Now, power is their goal. Power is their goal. And that all the knowledge passed down from the white male patriarchy is just a construct of said power, and you can't trust anything. So when you read articles like, Dad, you didn't tell me about your gender, whatever that crazy New York Times shit is, or you start talking about people and talking about algae like it just appeared yesterday in the reflecting pool. The reason they do that is because of the second part of one of the tenets of critical theory. The way to get you to distrust everything and destroy the country from the inside is to say that knowledge is a construct of power. Power is organized and centralized at the white male patriarchy, and they're basically lying to you. That's how you get articles in these ridiculous left-wing newspapers that go, it's 2 + 2 really equal 4. That is the genesis. Doubt me at your own expense. Look it up. You can look up critical theory yourself. You'll see they pump this stuff down your throats at all times. That is why you see articles like this too in the Toronto Star. We should abolish Father's Day. Now, it's said with kind of a joking nonsense kind of thing. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not a joke. These people are serious. Everything that you have done as patriarchs out there, everything great men have done throughout history, if you're white, trust nothing. That's the way we get Tower of Babel politics. The Tower of Babel collapses, and the left gets to reorganize society from the ground up, unsurprisingly, with all of them in power, the Bernie Sanders type people. Doubt me at your own expense. I'm telling you, these people are freaking crazy. And it is why you get suckers to fall for this socialist bullshit every time. There has not been a more perverse ideology in human history that has caused more death and destruction, that has a 100% success rate. Socialism, yeah, it does, success rate of failure. It's failed every time. It succeeds at failing like nothing else. And yet suckers and dipshits and losers keep falling for it.
All right, I'm going to pause it there. He's fired up today. And yeah, when he first talked about that thing in Portland about the crime going down, yeah, there was a report making people feel sorry for the glass repair shops because their business is down 40% because the crime has dropped. Okay, I've said before that if Trump found a cure for cancer, what the mainstream media and deep state swamp would complain about is all these physicians that are treating cancer will now be losing their jobs. That's what would happen. It's unfreaking believable. They can't appreciate the successes. They've got to find a way to turn it down when there's a success by Donald Trump. Isn't that freaking amazing? If that's not a WTF moment, I don't know what is. Let me click on this Rumble link and show you here that this video does come from the Dan Bongino show. This is the video I shared with you. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here and see what we got going for us here from AP for Liberty. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. Exorcising the grifters, clowns, and grave robbers, monetizing his murder. Okay? Ghouls and grave robbers. Let's see what he has to say. I don't know that he'll actually get into that, but I will include this as well as Dan Bongino's video in my daily news wrap up. All right, here we go.
I eat, I'm on a carnivore diet, so I eat meat and fermented vegetables.
You take sauerkraut with you out to parties.
I do.
Do you still take sauerkraut with you?
I went to dinner at the Ned last night, and I brought my sauerkraut.
Do you buy it at Whole Foods or you make it yourself?
I do not make it myself. I get it. There's an extraordinary selection at Whole Foods and at some other places. There's an entire wall of fermented vegetables.
Really? We don't have a Whole Foods here.
What supplements do you currently take, if any?
I take vitamin D, and I take quercetin and zinc, and I take magnesium, and then I take a bunch, vitamin C and a bunch of other stuff.
Sauerkraut. Imagine going to a party at the Met and you bring your own sauerkraut. Well, 30,000 feet over the Atlantic, the Vice President of the United States is probably working through a bag of grass-fed beef jerky with a jar of sauerkraut riding next to the hard-boiled eggs and the berries. And I was reading the Wall Street Journal this morning. They've got this whole glorious grocery list: eggs, sauerkraut, pickles, berries, beef and lamb, fermented vegetables. And of course, this is the man who is one heartbeat from the presidency, and he eats like a frontiersman who raided a farmer's market. And God bless him. He's in good company up there. The Wall Street Journal in this story put Robert Kennedy Jr. in the same program. Howard Lutnick is eating like this. Sean Duffy, Kevin McCarthy, all of them are on a regimen that a doctor named Sean O'Mara built out of fermented food, grass-fed meat, low sugar, and not a drop of alcohol. Now, Kennedy is 71 years old, and he says that he dropped 20 pounds in 30 days doing this diet. 20 pounds in a month. And this is at an age when the average American is usually negotiating with a doctor over a fourth prescription. So the health secretary of the United States is cutting weight like a fighter on fight week. And his secret weapon is a jar of shredded cabbage that your great grandmother kept in a crock in the cellar. So of course the press is treating this like it's absolutely hilarious. This is a joke. Well, I think it's funny. I do think it's funny, but it's also pretty serious. I've actually been eating a lot of sauerkraut myself lately, and boy, does it smell. I still like sauerkraut. That's what I call culture. Thank you, Quest. No, not Kool-Aid pickles. So the billionaires have discovered yogurt. Somebody get the Treasury Secretary reality show about gut bacteria. So I guarantee they're laughing about this in every newsroom in Manhattan. But here's the thing: the same press corps that's been spending years telling you to stay indoors, order delivery food, fear the outside air, they're now laughing at a cabinet full of men who lift weights and eat vegetables. Okay, think about who is doing the mocking. These are the people who called you selfish because you wanted the gym open. These are the people who put a mask on a 2-year-old. Some of them are still showing up with masks in public. All right, for 5 years, the face of American public health was a small man at a podium handing down a list of everything you were forbidden to do with your own body. And the whole apparatus of the left saluted and called it virtue. Mr. Fauci, give us vaccines. Now, the face of American health is a 7-year-old man, 20 pounds lighter, with a jar of sauerkraut and a barbell. And the same crowd is holding its nose and calling it weird, right? So the whole culture of health in this country has flipped inside of its axis in just one presidential term. And sunlight instead of lockdown, red meat instead of a soy patty with a lecture, a heavy deadlift instead of a parking lot vaccine line and a guilt trip. And the aroma coming off of the West Wing must be fairly interesting. Nobody ferments cabbage for a photo op, guys. Nobody does this because they want to look good. You do it because you want to do it. So a consultation with this doctor, Sean O'Mara, reportedly starts at around $8,000. And if you want a direct consultation, then that can run you $18,000. And the left is kind of sharpening the knives over this. They think they found the gotcha on this because the doctor is so expensive. But the reason that any of this left the dinner table and has become federal policy has actually showed up in a government filing this week. And it's bigger than anything you're going to find on the vice president's airplane tray this week. So every few years, the federal government prints the book that tells every public school, every VA hospital, and every military mess hall in the country what goes on their plates, what you should eat. And the brand new edition printed the word sauerkraut right there in black and white. So sauerkraut, kimchi is another one. And that I love, if you've never tried kimchi, it's delicious. Korean cabbage. It's like a spicy version of this. Miso, kefir. And these are all now named in the federal record as food that feeds a healthy gut. So the same guidelines that tell Americans, eat protein, real protein, eggs, poultry, seafood, meat, beans, and nuts. Now they're turning around, they're pointing in the soda. Remember, guys who built the food pyramid? I remember when the expert class drew this pyramid a generation ago, and they stacked 11 servings of bread and cereal oil along the bottom, and then they shoved red meat and eggs up top. That it looks like Thormock says, my wife makes homemade sauerkraut from the cabbage in our garden. That sounds amazing. I would love to make some homemade cabbage and sauerkraut. I'm into that for sure. So, and everybody remembers this food guy. We all the letter, and we became the fattest people who ever walked the earth. And of course, the bureaucrats who drew up these charts never paid a dime, and they never said the left in this country, they ran nutrition for half a century. They got every major call exactly backwards, and they still had the nerve to call anyone who ate a steak a science denier. Well, this week, the regime, the control of the left had on our diets ended finally. And cabbage has now walked into the federal record as medicine. So that would be, guys, a full show on its own, but it's not even the heavy one. On June 18th, Health and Human Services and the FDA asked for changes to the warning label on testosterone replacement therapy. And that is probably even a bigger story than the cabbage, the sauerkraut. So the old label on testosterone carried a line that said, in effect, that we have not established that this is a safe or effective treatment for a man whose testosterone is low just because he's getting older. Now the new line and the new label strikes that line out. So it rewrites the prostate warning and revises the warning on the enlarged prostate. So in plain English, what that means is that an aging American man and the doctor that he trusts are finally allowed to treat low testosterone as a real condition instead of something that we got to whisper about with a scarlet letter stamped across the top of the page. So, and the administration didn't pull that out of a supplement ad. They actually pulled this out of a trial called Traverse. More than 5,200 men were studied in this. And in the group, the FDA found no meaningful jump in the big cardiac disasters. So no wave of heart attacks from this testosterone, no wave of strokes among the men who are doing this testosterone replacement. And that was the fear that the old guard used to keep millions of American men off this treatment for over a decade. And now, 5,000 men later, it's collapsed. So watch what the administration did with these risks that are still real, because I think this is kind of the whole difference between these people and the one that they replaced. They did keep the warnings that the evidence still supports. They did keep a warning about blood pressure and testosterone replacement, but the Travers data showed more of the irregular heartbeat they call atrial fibrillation. There is more kidney injury, more clots in the lungs, and the FDA did put every bit of that on the label and in broad daylight. So apparently, trust the science means something to people who actually follow the science, right? St. Selma says, you want to learn about how to make sauerkraut? Watch Off Grid with Doug and Stacy on YouTube. They live in Missouri. Oh, wow. That's a great tip, Selma. Thank you, Becky. Becky, banana fan of Becky, Becky. Now, the old regime on this, when it came to the health administration, when it comes to the testosterone replacement, prostrate is lying down. Yes, thank you, Quest. I'm not going to take it lying down. Your correction lying down. Already halfway to the bonus content? Damn, guys, what you doing? Damn, Orlando, you like it? It's autumn sunrise. But I really like that the administration hasn't tried to say, well, testosterone replacement is good for you and there are no dangers just because they think it's a good thing. They are actually putting in print the actual dangers that they have scientifically found happen when you do testosterone replacement therapy. So the good news is that the administration, people who were afraid of RFK Jr. sort of being a quack, and I admit I was one of those people who were skeptical of him. He's actually been more measured and methodical than even I expected. I always expect everything to go to hell. It's the government, so I expect everything to suck and be terrible, and for them to go too far. And at least in this point, they seem to have not gone off of the reservation. So this administration handed us the good news and the bad news in the same envelope, and they trust a grown man to read it. So a free country, of course, should give a citizen the full truth. Let us decide at our own kitchen table with the doctors that we chose. The left's version of health was a clerk in a Maryland office park deciding the answer for 300 million people before a single one of us walked into an exam room. So Brandon Herrera saw the same news we just walked through. He's the newly elected congressman from Texas, big Liberty guy. Thank you, Texas, for sending Brandon Herrera to Washington, D.C. We're big fans of his around here. He's been on our show a couple times. So he saw the same news that we walked through, the Trump administration moving to pull the restrictions off of testosterone. And Brandon fired off one sentence that I think is going to outlive every white paper ever written on the subject. He wrote, higher T levels will cost the Democrats more votes than the SAVE Act. Now, guys, that is a joke. It's a good joke. Amy J. Easley, our resident nurse here at the network, says all drugs are risk versus reward, even over-the-counter stuff. Thank you. Yes, true. Eric Wilson live got the wallet. Yeah. Got to get it at the Grift shop. So Brandon Herrera tweeted that higher T levels will cost the Democrats more votes than the SAVE Act. But it's actually one of the most accidentally honest things anyone has said about American politics this year. And I can prove it because I found a study and it proves everything I believe. So the SAVE Act is the Republican bill that would make you prove you're an actual American citizen before you register to vote. This is the one that the Democrats are fighting like it is the end of the world because they understand that the rules about who is allowed to vote, who's allowed in the booth, that is the future. That is everything. So Brandon Herrera takes that, the thing that Democrats are guarding with their lives right now, and he says that a jar of hormone gel is a bigger threat to the Democrats than the SAVE Act, right? And the funny part is that there is some science that backs this up. So researchers at Claremont Graduate University ran an actual experiment. They took men and they gave them supplemental testosterone, and they watched what it did to their politics. Now, nothing happened to the strong Democrats. Nothing happened to the Republicans, strong or weak. But the weak Democrats, so the soft affiliation guys in this one, the swing voters that every campaign on earth is trying to reach, their politics moved. The strength of their party loyalty dropped 12%, and these Democrats reported 45% warmer feelings towards Republican candidates for president after one dose of testosterone. One.
All right. I'm going to pause that there. And if you have any friends that are Democrats, you might get them some testosterone supplements, and that might pull them over here so they won't act so stupid. Okay, let's click on this Rumble link. And again, this will be the in our daily news wrap-up, so you get to see the rest of this. Clicking the Rumble link, it does take us over here to this video from AP for Liberty. This is the video I shared with you. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All righty, let's jump back here. We've got some people that have joined us here. M41 Coco has joined us. Thank you very much. I'll get back to you here momentarily. Let's see what the Bongino Vince on the Bongino report has to say. The peace talks or the powder keg? Let's see. Yeah, it's a toss up there, but we'll have to see how it turns out.
Giving us an update from Switzerland, and he says Iran has agreed to the beginning of this process, and that means allowing IAEA inspectors, international inspectors, to show up and examine whatever their nuclear program looks like right now. Cut one, watch the vice president.
Yesterday was a very, very good day. We made a lot of good progress. We did exactly what we wanted to do, which is accomplish 4 things for the American people. First, we wanted to build a mechanism for keeping the Strait of Hormuz open. It is open. We've seen, of course, gas prices and oil prices come down, millions and millions of barrels of crude and natural gas flowing through the Strait of Hormuz that weren't flowing before. But we also wanted to make sure that we actually set up the coordination mechanism so that we could demine the Straits of Hormuz, so that when there are the conflicts that inevitably come up, we can make sure we work through them rather than that leading to escalation. And that is exactly what we did yesterday. Number 2, we also wanted to build a mechanism, a similar mechanism for deconfliction for the regional ceasefire. As the President of the United States has himself said, sometimes these ceasefires just mean you're shooting a little bit less, but we wanted to make sure that we had the proper coordination set up so that if there is shooting, if Hezbollah fires at Israel or if Israel responds, if there are other conflicts that arise in the region, we're actually talking to each other and figuring out how to stop the shooting, how to make the region safer, our allies and everybody else. We set that up as well. Number 3, and this is probably what we're most excited about as Americans, the Iranians have agreed to invite IAEA inspectors back into their country. That is a major milestone for the American people and the first step in permanently denuclearizing or permanently ending a nuclear weapons program in Iran.
Okay, so we got a couple of big items there. The first being the Strait of Hormuz being open, a deconfliction line being set up so the United States and Iran can talk to each other in order to keep that strait clear and free as they work on demining over the next 30 days. And of course, these negotiations over the next 60. The vice president describing all of this as building the foundation of a house. So not building the whole house yet. This is just about building that foundation. Where do we start? This is square one. We've also got the announcement about Lebanon, a deconfliction line for Lebanon. Lebanon is, of course, where this Iranian terror proxy Hezbollah is based. They keep firing all sorts of missiles and drones in the direction of Israel. And Israel is responding in kind. Israel's been trying to defend itself against these deranged terrorists over and over and over again. And so what they're trying to set up here is a communication line to try and bring down the tensions in the region, to try and calm these things down and get Hezbollah to stop attacking Israel. You heard the vice president wisely say it there. It's not Israel that's initiating attacks. It's Israel that's responding to these attacks. He wants all of them to stop. They've set up new lines of communication in order to do that. And then the IAEA going in, this is a big announcement because this is 1 year ago today was Operation Midnight Hammer, as the Trump administration sends in the military, we destroy their entire nuclear program. And now to pick up the pieces of it, we've got the IAEA, an announcement today. They'll begin going into the country, and they're working on the mechanisms for that right now. In fact, Vice President Vance said that they were calling last night as these negotiations went all day long. There was all sorts of misreporting on the subject. Oh, it only happened for like 90 minutes. It was hours upon hours upon hours that these teams were meeting. And they tried to actually call some of the IAEA inspectors in the middle of the night last night. I think Vice President Vance said it was like 4 a.m. in the morning, wherever they are. And they didn't answer their phones yet. So maybe today they get them on the phone and we can start getting these guys into Iran and get a closer look, human eyes, on what the hell's going on there in terms of their nuclear program. Having said that, I want to remind you about something. We have sterling intelligence on the state of their nuclear program anyway. The administration knows with 100% certainty, that's what a senior administration official told me, 100% certainty where this nuclear material is all being kept. They say it's in 3 locations, that there was a 4th location, people often refer to it as Pickaxe, that was being built up, but it doesn't contain any nuclear material. And the administration has utter confidence on that subject. So again, we have their number. And the president of the United States said last week, we're watching every doorway. If some dude with the name tag that says Muhammad, and he goes, that's about a 50-50 chance. If Muhammad shows up at one of these doors, we can just kill him. So we know what's going on. So don't try and screw with us. And we're going to send IAEA inspectors in for a deeper look at the specifics at each of these sites. So big announcements today from the Vice President of the United States. And it's funny because if you paid attention to the headlines over the weekend as the media was becoming completely hysterical about all of this, you had all this conversation about, oh, there's an exchange of fire going on in Lebanon again. The Iranians claim that the Strait of Hormuz is shut down. The Trump administration says it's not shut down. And it was just utter chaos. A lot of this is the product of the media being far too credulous about statements that come out of Iran's state media. The Iranian state media is nothing but just a constant stream of propaganda. And in the United States, of course, we have propagandists in our media as well, but they're not state propagandists, or at least for now, as President Trump's in office. They're fighting back against President Trump and our agenda constantly, which is why it's not a surprise that they're credulously repeating the talking points of Iran to make it seem like President Trump is playing with some sort of losing hand. The reality is that Iran is full of bluster. All they do is bluster. They constantly say that they've defeated us and they've beat us and they've pulled one over on us. And it's just nonsense. And it's funny because as you watch Vice President Vance's demeanor, he is totally unflappable on the subject. He's like, yeah, whatever. Okay, but the point is, you're going to do everything we want. That's the point. In fact, the vice president did allude to the, quote, trash talk that the Iranians have been doing, and he just laughed it off. He says, we millennials call that trash talk. Listen to this, cut two.
What we told the Iranians yesterday is when you guys engage in what us millennials might call trash talk, you can't expect the president of the United States not to respond and not to correct the record. So when they say things that aren't true, the president is going to respond to it. I'm going to respond to it. Americans are going to respond to it. When they make threats that aren't rooted in reality, they have to accept that the president of the United States is actually going to set the record straight. That's all that happened. So yes, there was a little bit of threatening, there was a little bit of whining, but at the end of the day, the talks continued and we made great progress.
A little threatening, a little whining, but no big deal. We kept the negotiations running. It is funny, though, because the Iranians were accusing President Trump of violating the memorandum of understanding when, of course, it was the Iranians who were getting all blustery. We're shutting down the strait. You guys are the worst. We're going to end everything. And the president said, you shut that down, I'm going to kill you. How about that? Here's the president this week in cut 4, an assessment of what the president told Fox's Trey Yingst. Watch this.
Just spoke with President Trump for more than 20 minutes, and he gave some new insight and reaction about the ongoing talks that are taking place in Switzerland and the threats coming from the Iranian regime. President Trump telling Fox News that the U.S. may take over the strait in the future if they have to and collect tolls. The president described this as the United States being the guardian angel of the Strait of Hormuz and the Middle East. And the president said ultimately that would involve the U.S. taking 20% of the oil that passes through the strait. Remember, this comes in reaction to the Iranians saying they will close the Strait of Hormuz in response to Israeli strikes against Hezbollah in Lebanon. President Trump tells Fox News he spoke with Iranian officials overnight and said, you close it and you won't have a country. He went on to tell these officials, you won't even make it back to your effing country. Now, earlier today, Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian said this about Iranian enrichment of uranium. The president also reacting to that. Take a listen.
We will not give up our right to enrichment, and they, too, will be forced to accept it. You all know what the so-called President of the United States was saying. He had made a complete 100-degree turn. He was saying that Iran must surrender unconditionally. Iran has no right to do this. It has no right to do that.
President Trump, during our call, responded directly to those comments by Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian. President Trump told Fox News he better watch his mouth, he better shape up, or we'll take over the rest of the country. And so clearly the president reacting directly to these comments from Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian. And also President Trump talked about the broader memorandum of understanding, indicating this is just a ceasefire extension. This is not the final deal with the Iranian regime. And the president says he holds the cards and maintains a variety of options if the Iranians don't make these serious commitments at the negotiating table. He said, I have a 60-day option and I can do whatever I want after that option. So again, President Trump leaving a variety of considerations on the table and says that the United States could become the guardian angel of the Strait of Hormuz, and collect tolls itself while taking oil, around 20%, the president says. As it relates to oil, President Trump also said that 19 million barrels of crude oil exited the Persian Gulf yesterday as a result of this memorandum of understanding with the Iranians.
I love everything about this. It just reminds me, you remember the Iranians like, we're shutting down the strait. He goes, you're shutting down the strait? How about this? How about I'm shutting down the strait? I'll shut down the strait. How do you like that? The Iranians like, what? I didn't expect you to. Yeah, no, I shut it down. Now nobody can get in or out of your ports. And that is actually what got Iran to the damn negotiating table in the first place, because we were moving oil anyway, and we were shutting down all of the movement to and from Iranian ports. Every time a ship tried to move either in or out, we just blew up its engine room. And Iran, well, they got the message. They got the message. And here the Iran's like, well, we're going to shut down the strait. And he's like, you're not doing that. In fact, if you cause more trouble, I'm going to take over the whole damn strait, and then we're just going to collect the 20% fee on all the oil that moves through it. How about that?
All right. There you have it, folks. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pause this here, and this video will be in my daily news wrap-up, so you can watch more of it. Let me click on the Rumble link here and show you that this video does come
on the
from
table.
Bongino Report. This is Vince. The video I shared with you here, I've given it a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's move on to Wendy Bell and see what she has to say. Slide down here. The Noose Titans. All right, that's a nice thumbnail there for her video. Got all the important people here. Let's see what she has to say.
Give a rat's rear end about any of us. How many of them truly care about being part of the fabric of American history? How many of them wake up in the morning thinking that what they want to do is deliver to the people at home who entrusted them to represent them honestly and nobly every single day that they go to work, which, by the way, isn't an awful lot. I wonder, is it 10%? Is that too high? I don't know, because I think what we're starting to figure out more and more is that the biggest cancer in our society today happens to be in the government. It's the people who make up the rules, people who decide how to spend our money, the people who try to tell us what's true and what's not, and the people for far too long who've been stealing from us, enriching themselves, and lying to our faces every single day. I think that there's a time it's going to come to an end. I don't think it's going to be next Tuesday. It might not even be in this administration. I don't think so. But the unraveling is on, and here's how I know. One, there's no way in a snowball's chance in hell that Gavin Newsom is going to be the Democrat candidate for the president of the United States in 2028. The stuff going around with his wife right now is very interesting to pay attention to vis-a-vis other stories in other parts of the country that are happening in a similar fashion. So I stumbled upon this particular headline this morning, and it's all about the Los Angeles Unified School District. Now, I grew up in LA. I was part of the Las Virgenes Unified School District, so it's just up a skosh the road. But the Los Angeles Unified School District is the second largest school district in the United States, next to New York City. 500,000 students are under that big umbrella called the Los Angeles Unified School District. And there's a dude who's been the superintendent. His name is Alberto Carvalho. Alberto Carvalho. He's been in the throes of some media circuitry for a while because there's something weird going on with a contract that the school board there approved to get some kind of an app into the school district. It was called All Here. Now, All Here is an app that was billed by its builders and donors and what have you, creators, as giving parents and teachers at a school district instant conversation with one another if one of their children is missing. So if your child's not there, mom and dad get a text on the phone. If something is sideways, you have an immediate connection with the school and the parent. And it was built as this really cool way to cut down on absenteeism. Now, it was going to cost about $12 million and all in, I think, or maybe $6 million. And all in, the Los Angeles Unified School District paid $3 million to a woman and her company to get this All Here app into the school. Now, do you need to know what happened, or can you probably just close your eyes and be like, wait a minute, I know how this movie ends, right? So what is it? Is it a real app? Is it something that really happens? Is it a real function? No. It's a grift, and the woman behind it used the $3 million that the Los Angeles Unified School District gave her to buy a home and to give herself a lavish wedding in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, okay? That's how ridiculous it is. So no benefit to anybody in Los Angeles, right? Only benefit is to the broad behind it who stole the money, and she's now pleading, right? Mail fraud, wire fraud, tax fraud, all of this stuff. And it's putting the spotlight on this Alberto Carvalho, this superintendent whose offices were recently raided, but there's no direct evidence connecting this woman, this app, the $3 million, and anything to him. And it sounds so very interesting to me. Well, I'm telling you the story right now because this guy, the school superintendent, Alberto Carvalho, for the country's second largest public school district system, has now just resigned. He's now said, you know what? I'm out of here. We're not going to do this. I'm too much of a distraction. He had been suspended with pay for a couple months. But this whole thing has been going on for 2 years. And finally now, Alberto Carvalho is like, you know what? I'm going to step aside. This woman has pled guilty. She's doing something, working with prosecutors, and she's going to get nailed for her part of the fraud. How similar is this to so many other stories that we've been talking about? That Dana Williamson woman who used to work for Javier Becerra, was his campaign manager or what have you, worked in the Newsom administration with Governor Newsom at the time. She gets pinched for her own campaign theft of cash. But there's no connection between her and Newsom directly. But he's named in this. Think about Amy Bach. Think about the woman, the head of the Feeding Our Futures scam in Minneapolis, right? Well, there's no necessarily direct link between Amy Bach scamming taxpayers out of providing millions of COVID meals for kids who didn't exist, kids who weren't fed, and meals that were never made in storefronts that were never large enough to handle such an operation if anybody dared to ever investigate, right? But Amy Bach's in prison pleading guilty to something. She's now pleading with them, I'm sure, and she's talking. You mean to tell me that Tim Walz had no idea whatsoever what was going on? Any more than Alberto Carvalho in Los Angeles had no idea what was going on with this app that really wasn't what it was supposed to be. This is the story, right? It seems everybody has a side hustle. It's not enough to go to your job if you're the superintendent of the second largest school district in the country and to say, you know what? We've got really lousy test scores. We've got kids we're graduating who are illiterate. We've got rampant issues with absenteeism. There is a culture that needs to change. Where's the guy who walks in and says, I am your agent of change, who actually does what they say they're going to do? Because I'm looking around and I'm not seeing it. I'm looking around at all these side hustles. Why is it that you've got Letitia James in New York as the top law enforcement officer of the state, right? Or one of them, who's out doing things shady with her mortgages and signing things with her father? Why are other people like Ilhan Omar marrying their brothers? And then when everybody catches on to that and we see what's going on there, she's like, no, actually, I'm going to marry this weasel white guy over here. We're going to pretend that we have a winery that's making millions of dollars. And then when people catch on to it, I'm going to come up and be like, yeah, about that. That was a little glitch. That was an auditing error of some nature. In fact, my husband didn't make any money last year. Do you not feel like you're on a yo-yo? And all you want is to pay a reasonable amount in taxes to do the things that we all need. We don't need everybody grifting off of everybody else. We shouldn't look at a pool of 500,000 students and say, how can I get rich off of those suckers? But this is the story, ladies and gentlemen, from the Los Angeles Unified School District to feeding our futures to what's going on in California with Noose and his wife to James Tallarico in Texas. That story is coming up. Am I alone to say, I just want somebody that I can believe in? I don't think so. When we come back on the Wendy Bell radio program, Brian Stelter, we're going to do a little flashback. Let's get in the Wayback Machine, shall we? We'll buckle up and we'll go back a few years when Brian Stelter was finger wagging those right-wing MAGA extremists for spreading a lie that was 100% true. And that's going to set you up for the show next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network.
All right. Well, isn't that always the way it is? It seems like every time they point fingers at the MAGA people and accuse us of lying, it seems to come true. You know, kind of like the COVID thing, kind of like the Russian collusion hoax, kind of like every frickin' thing.
Welcome back to the Wendy Bell Radio program. You know, I'm not familiar with many other businesses other than media, which is very bizarre, that fire people and then bring them back into the fold at the company that fired them. That's exactly what happened with Brian Stelter. Remember, he had that terrible show, Reliable Sources, where he would sit there with his big lips, and he would tell us all about the fake news that was going on and all those right-wing MAGA extremists. And everything he told you was straight out garbage. And it's so interesting to look back at it now because we can't make the same mistakes again and again and again. If the media are all telling you one story, that story is most assuredly, and I would bet 99% of my life on it, garbage, right? The reflecting pool. Trump thinks it's sabotage. Well, we'll talk about that after the next commercial break. Wah, wah. Here's Brian Stelter telling us in October of 2020 just how stupid the right-wing media are, specifically the New York Post, for breaking the story with Miranda Devine on Hunter Biden's laptop, which was 100% verifiable, demonstrable, provable, true. And here's Brian Stelter telling you, no, you're just watching a bad movie, ladies and gentlemen. Don't fall for it. Really? Let's hear.
So let's take a look at how a storyline is manufactured. In this case, a loudly anti-Biden storyline, redounding to Trump's benefit. First, it helps to really view this as storytelling, not so much as news coverage, but as political entertainment, where crushing the other party is entertaining. Fox News, the beating red heart of the right-wing media machine, molds reality into a serialized TV drama. That's how Vox recently put it. Think Lost or 24. Think Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad. Think Westworld or The Wire. Every day, every night, there are what appear to be new developments in this entertainment drama, some new twist to keep you watching. A new storyline was introduced right on time. There it is, the New York Post front page, announcing Biden's secret emails, more shadiness involving Hunter Biden.
You know what's interesting when you see something this ridiculous and you go back and you're like, yeah, I kind of remember him saying this stuff. And then the reality has come out and everybody knows that he's garbage and was peddling that filth. This guy is on TV again now, hired as the chief media analyst at CNN after they sacked him for having crappy ratings and for like worse ratings than, I don't know, even Don Lemon, if you can believe it. Now he's back trying to tell you what's really going on. Now, why in a million years would we ever welcome this back into our lives? You wouldn't. But much like the Democrat Party, Media don't have anybody but the same hits they've spun again and again. What does the Democrat Party have? Well, they've got Kamala Harris. They think they might have Gavin, don't think so. Who else? Spinning the hits because it's all they have. This is when Brian takes true umbrage with the right-wing media machine, he calls it. And it's whataboutism. So he says, if there's some claim against Donald Trump, the right-wing media will then point fingers over here at Joe Biden or Hunter Biden. And it's like, no, we were just telling you what was going on, and you were the one who was lying about it. Listen.
As political entertainment goes, this is not a brand new TV show. It's just a new season of the show. Hunter Biden's business dealings in Ukraine were a key part of the plot last season in the impeachment of President Trump. Hunter has already apologized. Well, he's already admitted to poor judgment and swampy behavior. His father has said that it will not happen again. And at this point, most people have moved on. But Trump needs a closing argument. So he and his media allies usually rely on whataboutism, right? So you ask about the Trump family swampiness, and they say, what about Hunter Biden? You raise Trump's legal exposure, and they say, what about Obamagate? You might say, or liberal critics say, Trump is compromised, and they say, no, Biden's compromised. Whataboutism is like a glue that holds the base together. It also supplies hours and hours of TV drama. So stay mad and stay tuned. That's what it's really about.
So fascinating. He just told you exactly the play-by-play of the left, the media, and everything they do to try to convince you what is going on isn't going on. He said most people by now have moved on from Hunter Biden's laptop. That was October of 2020. Nobody had moved on, Brian, because you were burying it. You were silencing it. You were attacking anybody who dared question it. It's the same thing they did with that election. It's the same thing they did with January 6th. It's the same thing they did with any of the riots, any of race-infused riots, any of that. It's the same thing they did hook, line, and sinker with every aspect of COVID. Now, more and more people are waking up, I believe. But this guy still exists. He's still out there, and he's still used by CNN, whose ratings are so horrendous. There are days on this program that as a little old 56-year-old woman, I can get more people listening to this program than they get watching in prime time on CNN. And just 2% of the people CNN polled say that they are avid, regular viewers of CNN. There is something very serious going on, and I think we're being primed in many, many ways by this administration. I believe President Trump knows where all of the bodies are buried, and he has shovels ready. But there's a process, and the process is slower than a lot of us would like. But pay attention today, because you're going to hear some voices, particularly one at the very end of today's program, which is perhaps the most illustrative soundbite of the day, of people waking up, snapping out of that echo chamber and realizing for how long they've been conned and what it's cost them. When we come back on the Wendy Bell radio program, my friends, let's talk about this reflecting pool. Remember how they were mocking President Trump, mocking Grant Stinchfield for saying it was sabotage? How about some whataboutism? Next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. And this video as well will be in my daily news wrap-up tonight. So it's going to be jam-packed. Don't miss it. Let me click on the Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from Wendy Bell Radio. This is the video I shared with you. I've given her a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here. And we've got a lot of great comments tonight, so let's go ahead and copy these into a lot of great chats. So let's copy these into a comment here. So they will be a permanent part of the video because, as you know, when the live stream ends, these comments just kind of evaporate into cyberspace. I also want to remind you folks that these videos that I've shared with you here are videos that come directly from the producer, Okay, I've got the link to the videos here in the description box, as well as the link to the producer's channel here in the description box. So you can go check them out and see what other information they have available. And these videos that I've shared with you here are videos that I've posted here on Mertech.com. Right there's the Liberty from AP, or the video from AP for Liberty. All right, there's the Bongino report with Vince. Here's the Dan Bongino video right here on Mertech.com that I'm sharing with you. And right down here is Wendy Bell, the video that I just shared with you. I have over 40 no-nonsense, common sense, logic and truth videos here. You know, the kind of information that you're not going to get on the mainstream media. And the link to Mertech.com is in the description box as well. Okay, it's a free site. I don't ask for your name. I don't ask for your email address. I don't drop cookies on your computer. I don't ask you to sign up for a newsletter or have a bunch of ads popping up in your face. It's your one-stop shop for information that you're not going to get from the mainstream media. No nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth, okay? Now, I'd like to share all of this with you, but unfortunately, I just don't have the time to do so. And that's why I've put together my Mertech Daily News Wrap-Up playlist right here. It says I have 21 videos in here, about 9 or 10 hours worth of great information. Here's the Wendy Bell video that I just finished sharing with you, the Dan Bongino video, the Bongino report video, AP for Liberty. We also have some X22 report in here, some Steve Deace on the fringe, and we know Barry Cunningham. We have a ton of great information here, folks. So go ahead and take a break, though, right now. Go ahead and have a cup of coffee and a donut or a sandwich and a soft drink or maybe even a beer or a nice glass of wine and some cheese, and meet me back here in about 15 or 20 minutes. Give me time to get this set up in Rumble Studio, and we'll take off with some more news that you're not going to get on the mainstream media or Deep State Swamp. But in the meantime, I do want to thank you for being here with me. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.